so many of my clients have children, and the example or metaphor that I use is the movie Inside Out.
Mm-hmm.
And what is fascinating about this movie, which is a metaphor I've been using and have been taught for the last 10, 12 years, is the control panel. And if you've seen the movie, you know that Riley, who's the main character, has joy, the feeling joy. And joy has a control button when Riley is first born, is only of one button. She can turn joy on or joy off. That's it. At the end of the movie, there are five feeling characters, and now the control panel has expanded exponentially. When we are in a state of victimhood, it appears that our control panel is incredibly limited, that we have so few options, as you just mentioned, Sarah. And the goal of stepping out of these boxes of exclusion, the goal of stepping out of these boxes of exclusion is to notice how there are actually so many other options, that we do in fact have a much larger control panel that we may not be aware of just yet.
Yeah, beautiful. Yeah, so wonderful, such a wonderful and enticing invitation to expand our sense of our own possibility. So there we gave a little bit of a decoding of the victimhood quadrant, with that guess of powerlessness and a need for agency, maybe a need for acknowledgement that we've never really been sure our contributions really matter. A longing to have our contributions really effortlessly flow and be received with joy and appreciation, or in the very least, at least acknowledgement. And sometimes that does not even happen. So just noticing how much we as humans, of course we need acknowledgement, of course we need appreciation. And there might be other kind of nuances and feelings that go with that as well. But let's take a look at our next quadrant. Rajkumari, what's the next quadrant of exclusion?
So the patterning that I've been noticing in the conversations with my clients is that victimhood holds the polarity of entitlement. And oftentimes when a client feels victimized or standing in a place of victimhood, to re-empower themselves, they catapult into entitlement. And very often it can be as severe as an FU stance, or at the very least, I don't give a blank, or an indifferent stance. And so this I call posturing, in terms of having a need that isn't being met. And this place of entitlement, there's such a disregard and a distortion of empowerment. This isn't really truly feeling empowered or in a masterful, self-regulated stance at all. This is kind of a power over. There isn't a lot of connection here. This is kind of a, hey, I am now in a stance, I was in a stance of inferiority to you or this experience or my environment, and now I'm going to catapult myself into distorted empowerment so I can feel that I'm in control and put myself above you or the experience or my environment or my team, etc.
So in this place, one of the things that happens is that we kind of lose a sense of other people altogether. No one really figures as a person anymore when we come into this place. We are essentially alone here, and it is the traditional kind of left hemisphere centered way of being, where we're kind of in a constant forward gear. We never really pause to take a breath. We never really pause to connect with the body. We never really pause to connect with other humans. So the experience of being in this place is itself disconnected from others, and the experience of being in the presence of someone who is here leads to a necessary sense of of disconnection. So finding our way back to connection from either victimhood or from entitlement really is the path back is facilitated, really supported by connecting with the body. It's impossible to stay in an entitled place or a victim place and be deeply connected with the body.
Right. I also kind of want to touch a tiny bit here on unconscious bias, and this is where unconscious bias thrives, really, and where we can talk a lot about privilege or lack of. And, I think we could spend days and days and days kind of surfacing and kind of weaving together understanding and narratives. What's important to note is in either box, there is a power over and a distancing of self. Mm-hmm. And that's critical to understand that when one chooses in the moment to step out of all of the boxes and find themselves in a place of inclusion through integration, curiosity, compassion, etc., now there is greater sense of partnership, equity, equanimity, parity. And that's really kind of where we are our best selves. That's where we find purpose and meaning and feel valued and that we matter. So just keeping all of those little bits of information kind of top of mind as we continue this discussion.
Beautiful. What is our next quadrant?
So then below entitlement and victimhood, to the left and bottom is neediness, and then we have righteousness. So neediness is, in essence, exactly what it sounds like. My needs are not being met. There's a little bit of a different nuanced quality here, where I'm not good enough or I'm unworthy because my needs aren't met, and there's a kind of a tugging. Right? So the word I like to use about being in healthy relationship or attachment is a tethering. Yeah? In this place, there's a tugging. There's a request or a demand, truly. It's more of a demand that my needs are not being met, and it's your job to meet them.
My needs are not being met, and it's your job to meet them. So in this place, one of the things that's happening is that we're using other people as a strategy for getting our needs met. We've become entirely dependent on what other people do or do not do, and we're constantly measuring whether what they do or don't do is enough for us, whether it means that we matter, whether they're giving us the respect that we want, whether they're giving us the appreciation or acknowledgement that we want. So there's a deep dependency on others.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. And there's an immediate sense of inferiority. You're immediately placing yourself below others. And which can make others feel incredibly awkward or uncomfortable. Well, they don't know how to stand here. They don't know what this means to them.
Yes. Beautiful. Because when we're using other people as a strategy for getting our needs met, then even though we're seeing that the other people exist, they're still kind of tools for us. They're means to an end. So they're the means to the end of our body relaxing into security, or they're the means to the end of us having enough appreciation that we would finally have a sense that we mattered, or they're the means to the end of giving us reassurance that we exist and that our viewpoint has weight. Yeah.
Beautifully said, Sarah, and this plays directly into righteousness. At this point, your needs may not be met through someone else, and so because you are hurt, now you can step into righteousness and say, you are the reason why I am hurting. Right? And this is a perfect opportunity for blame.
Yes, it takes us right into blame, doesn't it?
Right? And so this person then becomes, we've heard of these stories where this person is never good enough. They can never do enough. They never get it right. Right? This is a place where one stands in this box of righteousness. I was hurt, and it's your fault.
Mm-hmm. And that is squarely putting us into the left hemisphere again. So not only are we wanting the other person to do something, but we're blaming them for it not happening. So then we become the one who is morally superior instead of the one. It's a way to deal with this problem of hierarchy that's a left hemisphere problem. That if it's unbearable to be less than, then how do we shift so that we can be more than? If we can make the other person wrong about our pain, then we can become more than instead of being in the less than position.
Absolutely, and this is again where I will resurface the being right and being in relationship. You certainly can have the experience of your needs not being met while still being tethered to the person in front of you, while giving respect, compassion, feeling curious and connected. All of that is possible.
Mm-hmm. Beautiful. Well, we've gotten to take a look at the left and the right hemispheres. We've looked at the default network, and we've taken a stroll through Rajkumari's work with the 4 zones of exclusion. And Rajkumari, I'm imagining that you have a little bit more about this on your website, perhaps, or something you're developing?
Absolutely, yes. You can go to disruptivediversity.com and take a look at the framework, and there you will find a little bit more about how to explore those. I love zones of exclusion. Let's go with zones rather than boxes. Because that means we get to color code, and I love the color code.
Wonderful. Wow. Well, what a pleasure, Rajkumari. Next time that we're together, we're going to be talking about what happens to our body when we don't feel hope. So we'll kind of be taking a look at the neurobiology of living in victimhood, and how that affects our body, and a little bit more about how we can hold ourselves with warmth and gentleness in that experience.
Excellent, Sarah. Thank you so much for your wisdom and intelligence always. And listeners, thank you so much for joining us. It's always a pleasure to have you with us.